Hey there, history enthusiasts. Tonight, we're stepping into some of humanity's most extraordinary ordinary days. Moments when people lived their lives completely unaware that they were about to become history's most haunting cautionary tales. Forget the dramatic recreations and romanticized portrayals you've seen in movies. We're talking about real people going about their daily routines while sitting on powder kegs of violence, betrayal, and catastrophic natural forces they couldn't begin to comprehend. This is the reality behind history's most deceptive calm before the storm. We're about to experience what it actually meant to wake up in Pompeii on August 24th, 9 AD, thinking it would be just another day of business and pleasure while Mount Vesuvius prepared to erase your entire world from existence. You'll witness Chinese court officials navigating deadly political intrigues where a wrong word could doom 3 generations of your family. Watch Mayan kings undergo ritual bloodletting that would kill most people from shock alone, and understand why Viking stone carvers literally put their lives on the line every time they picked up a chisel. But that's just the beginning. Tonight, we'll journey through 4 moments when normalcy was an illusion and survival required navigating dangers that could materialize without warning, from volcanic eruptions that moved faster than human comprehension to political machinations that turned breakfast conversations into death sentences, from religious ceremonies that demanded superhuman pain tolerance to artistic traditions where a single mistake could mean exile or execution. So settle in, dim the lights, and prepare yourself for a journey into worlds where everyday life was far more dangerous than any modern person could imagine surviving. Because after tonight, you'll realize that the mundane routine of your daily existence represents a luxury that most of human history never knew. The luxury of assuming you'll live to see tomorrow. Welcome to 4 moments when ordinary people faced extraordinary dangers while thinking they were just living normal lives. The morning of August 24th, 79 AD dawns bright and clear in Pompeii, and you wake up in what seems like one of the most prosperous and sophisticated cities in the Roman Empire. The air smells of fresh bread from the bakeries, blooming flowers from the gardens, and the salty breeze from the nearby Bay of Naples. You have no way of knowing that in approximately 6 hours, you'll be dead, your body frozen in time by superheated volcanic material moving at 450 miles per hour. You might think you understand the Pompeii disaster from museum visits and documentaries, but the reality of daily life in this doomed city was far more complex and fascinating than the tragic ending that overshadows everything else. Pompeii wasn't just a wealthy Roman town waiting to be destroyed. It was a vibrant multicultural city where Romans, Greeks, Jews, slaves and freedmen created one of the ancient world's most sophisticated urban environments, while completely failing to recognize the geological time bomb they had built their lives upon. Welcome to Pompeii on its final day, where 20,000 people wake up to what they expect will be another routine day of business, politics, entertainment and pleasure in one of Rome's most successful provincial cities. They'll go about their morning routines, attend to their businesses, visit the baths and enjoy their evening meals with absolutely no comprehension that they're living through the last few hours of one of history's most perfectly preserved disasters. The city you wake up in on August the 24th, 79 AD represents the pinnacle of Roman urban planning and engineering, a testament to imperial prosperity that has transformed what was once a small Oscan settlement into a thriving commercial centre that serves as the economic and cultural hub for the entire Campanian region. The Pompeii of 79 AD is barely recognisable from the modest town it was just a century earlier. The population has swelled to approximately 20,000 residents living within the city walls, with perhaps another 100,000 people in the surrounding agricultural estates, villas, and smaller settlements that depend on Pompeii's markets, ports, and administrative services. This population density creates a bustling urban environment that rivals anything in the Roman world outside of Rome itself. The architectural landscape surrounding you represents over 200 years of continuous development and improvement, as successive generations of residents have invested in public buildings, private homes, commercial facilities and infrastructure that demonstrates both remarkable wealth and sophisticated engineering capabilities. The city you see has been rebuilt and expanded multiple times following earthquakes, most recently the major tremor of 62 AD that provided opportunities for architectural renovation. The street layout follows logical Roman urban planning principles with straight roads intersecting at right angles to create city blocks that facilitate both traffic flow and commercial activity. The main streets are wide enough for two-way cart traffic and are paved with large stone blocks that provide durable surfaces capable of handling the constant flow of people, animals, and vehicles that keep the city functioning. The water system that supplies your daily needs represents one of Roman engineering's most impressive achievements, bringing fresh water from mountain springs through a complex network of aqueducts, distribution points, and underground pipes that deliver clean water to public fountains, private homes, and commercial establishments throughout the city. This water infrastructure makes urban life possible while supporting the public baths, fountains, and gardens that define civilized Roman living. The sewage and drainage systems that keep the city sanitary involve sophisticated engineering that channels wastewater and storm runoff through underground networks that prevent the accumulation of filth and disease that plagued less advanced urban areas. These sanitation systems represent major public investments that make dense urban living safe and pleasant. The economic foundation supporting this urban prosperity rests on agricultural production, from the fertile volcanic soil surrounding the city, maritime commerce through the nearby port facilities and manufacturing industries that produce goods for both local consumption and export throughout the Roman world. The prosperity you see everywhere reflects Pompeii's success in developing diversified economic activities that generate wealth for all social classes. Your morning routine begins with the sunrise that illuminates a city already bustling with activity, as Pompeii's residents wake early to take advantage of cool morning temperatures before the Mediterranean heat makes outdoor work uncomfortable. The sounds that greet you include the calls of street vendors, the clatter of cartwheels on stone pavement, and the conversations of neighbors beginning their daily activities. If you're a member of the wealthy elite, your morning begins in a private home that represents one of the most sophisticated domestic environments in the ancient world. Your domus features multiple rooms arranged around central courtyards that provide light and air circulation while creating private family spaces that shield you from the noise and chaos of street life. The atrium that serves as the focal point of your home contains the impluvium pool that collects rainwater while providing a serene water feature that cools the air and creates a peaceful environment for family activities. The decorative elements surrounding this space include frescoes, mosaics, and sculptural works that demonstrate your family's wealth and cultural sophistication. Your bedroom features a bed with a wooden frame and rope supports that holds a mattress stuffed with wool or feathers, providing comfort that represents luxury by ancient standards. The room includes storage for your personal possessions and might feature decorative wall paintings that create the illusion of larger spaces while providing visual entertainment. The morning toilette that prepares you for public appearance involves personal hygiene practices that depend on slave assistance for everything from washing and grooming to dressing in the complex garments that indicate your social status. Roman clothing requires careful arrangement and multiple layers that cannot be managed without help. Your breakfast consists of simple foods including bread, cheese, olives, and wine, mixed with water providing nutrition, while following Roman customs that reserved elaborate meals for later in the day. The food you eat comes from local agricultural production and represents the Mediterranean diet that sustained Roman civilization. If you belong to the working classes, your morning routine involves different challenges and opportunities as you prepare for a day of physical labor, commercial activity, or skilled craftsmanship that provides your family's livelihood while contributing to the city's economic success. Your living quarters might consist of rooms above or behind your workshop, creating integrated residential and commercial spaces that eliminate commuting while keeping your family close to your source of income. These arrangements are practical, but create crowded conditions that lack the privacy and comfort available to wealthier residents. The workshop or store where you spend your day represents significant investment in tools, materials, and location that determines your economic success while requiring specialized knowledge and skills that you've developed through years of training and experience. Your professional competence directly affects your family's prosperity and social standing. Your daily work routine involves activities that begin before dawn and continue until late evening, as successful businesses require long hours and constant attention to customer needs, quality control, and competitive pressures that determine which enterprises prosper and which fail. The social interactions that occupy your morning involve relationships with customers, suppliers, employees, and competitors that shape both your immediate business success and your long-term prospects for advancement within Pompeii's commercial hierarchy. If you're a slave, your morning routine involves serving the needs of others while maintaining the complex systems that enable wealthy households and commercial enterprises to function effectively. Your day begins before your owners wake up and involves preparing their environment before they begin their own activities. Your sleeping quarters consist of small rooms or spaces that provide basic shelter while reflecting your legal status as property rather than a person with rights to comfort or privacy. These accommodations are functional but offer little beyond protection from weather. Your work assignments might involve household management, food preparation, childcare, or skilled crafts that require significant expertise while generating no direct benefit for yourself. The quality of your work affects your treatment and potentially your chances for eventual freedom, but the immediate rewards go to your owners. The social relationships available to you include connections with other slaves and freedmen who share similar circumstances while providing mutual support and information that helps you navigate the challenges of servitude. These relationships often become more important than family connections that may have been severed by slavery. The public spaces that define daily life in Pompeii include the Forum Basilica temples, theatres, amphitheatre, and public baths that serve as centres for political, commercial, religious, and social activities that bring together people from all social classes while maintaining clear, hierarchical distinctions. The Forum represents the heart of civic life where political announcements are made, commercial contracts are negotiated, legal disputes are resolved, and social relationships are maintained through daily interaction. This central space reflects Roman urban planning principles while providing the physical setting for community life. The basilica that adjoins the Forum serves as the centre for legal proceedings and commercial activities that require formal settings and official oversight. The architectural grandeur of this building demonstrates the importance Romans placed on justice and commerce, while providing impressive spaces for public activities. The temples scattered throughout the city serve various religious functions while demonstrating the diverse spiritual beliefs that coexist within Roman religious tolerance. These religious buildings provide focal points for community rituals while reflecting the cultural complexity of Pompeian society. The commercial districts that surround the Forum contain shops, workshops, restaurants, and taverns that provide goods and services for daily life while creating economic opportunities for entrepreneurs and skilled craftsmen. The density and variety of commercial establishments reflect the city's prosperity and consumer demand. The residential neighborhoods that extend from the city center contain houses of varying sizes and quality that reflect the social and economic diversity of Pompeian society while creating distinct areas where different social classes live in proximity but separation. Your morning activities might include visits to the public baths, which serve as centers for social interaction, business networking, and personal hygiene that bring together people from different social backgrounds while maintaining proper social distinctions through separate facilities and admission fees. The thermae represents sophisticated engineering that provides hot, warm, and cold bathing facilities along with exercise areas, massage services, and social spaces that create comprehensive wellness centers. The technology required for heating and water circulation demonstrates Roman engineering capabilities while providing luxury services. The social interactions that occur in the baths include business discussions, political conversations, and personal relationships that shape community life while providing opportunities for social advancement and information exchange. These facilities serve functions that extend far beyond simple bathing. The exercise and athletic activities available at the baths include various physical pursuits that maintain health and strength, while providing recreational activities that relieve the stress of daily life. Roman attitudes toward physical fitness reflect their military heritage and aesthetic values. The slave attendants who provide bath services represent specialized workers whose skills enhance the bathing experience while creating employment opportunities within the service economy. These workers possess valuable expertise while occupying subordinate social positions. The morning's commercial activities reflect Pompeii's role as a regional economic centre that connects local agricultural production with imperial trade networks, creating opportunities for merchants, craftsmen and entrepreneurs to build substantial fortunes through successful business operations. The agricultural markets that supply daily food needs bring together farmers from the surrounding countryside with urban consumers who depend on rural production for survival. These markets create economic relationships that bind city and country while providing fresh food daily. The import-export businesses that connect Pompeii to distant regions bring exotic goods including spices, silk, precious metals and manufactured items that demonstrate the city's integration into global Roman commerce. These businesses create wealth while providing access to luxury goods. The manufacturing enterprises that produce goods for local consumption and export include pottery, metalwork, textiles and food processing that employ skilled craftsmen while creating products that compete in regional and imperial markets. These industries provide employment while generating export income. The financial services that support commercial activity include banking, money changing, and credit arrangements that enable complex business transactions while creating opportunities for investors to profit from successful enterprises. These services demonstrate sophisticated economic understanding. The bakeries that provide daily bread represent essential urban infrastructure, with over 30 bakeries operating throughout the city to supply the basic nutritional needs of 20,000 residents. These establishments use complex milling equipment and large ovens that demonstrate sophisticated food production technology. The fulling workshops that clean and process textiles create a major industry that serves both local needs and export markets. These establishments use complex chemical processes and specialized equipment that demonstrate advanced understanding of textile production and treatment. The garum production that creates the fermented fish sauce beloved throughout the Roman world represents one of Pompeii's most distinctive industries. These workshops produce a condiment that commands high prices throughout the empire, while creating distinctive aromatic contributions to the city's atmosphere. The wine production that processes grapes from the surrounding volcanic slopes creates both local beverages and export products that carry Pompeian wine throughout the Roman world. These operations involve sophisticated understanding of fermentation while creating products that enhance the city's reputation. The metalworking shops that produce tools, weapons, jewelry, and decorative objects demonstrate advanced technical skills while creating products that serve both practical and aesthetic functions. These craftsmen work with bronze, iron, silver, and gold to create goods that range from everyday tools to luxury items. The entertainment options available during your day include theatres, gladiatorial games, public festivals, and private parties that provide diversion while reinforcing social hierarchies and cultural values through shared experiences that bring the community together. The theatre performances that entertain educated audiences include both comedies and tragedies that explore universal human themes while providing commentary on contemporary social and political issues. These performances serve both entertainment and educational functions. The gladiatorial combats that take place in the amphitheatre provide violent entertainment that satisfies popular demand for spectacle while reinforcing imperial values through displays of courage, strength, and martial prowess. These events create shared experiences that unite diverse populations. The religious festivals that mark the calendar year provide opportunities for community celebration while honoring the gods and maintaining traditional practices that connect Pompeii to Roman cultural identity. These festivals combine religious devotion with social celebration. The private banquets and social gatherings that occur in wealthy homes provide opportunities for political networking, business relationship building, and cultural expression that strengthen social bonds while excluding those without appropriate status or connections. The musical performances that accompany various social events include instrumental music, singing, and dance that provide artistic expression while creating atmosphere for social activities. These performances demonstrate cultural sophistication while providing entertainment that enhances social gatherings. The literary activities that engage educated residents include poetry recitation, philosophical discussion, and historical analysis that provide intellectual stimulation while demonstrating cultural refinement. These activities create opportunities for scholarly exchange while reinforcing educational values. The artistic workshops that produce decorative objects, sculptures, and architectural ornaments create a thriving creative economy while providing luxury goods that enhance domestic and public spaces. These workshops demonstrate advanced artistic skills while creating products that reflect cultural values. The gaming establishments that provide gambling opportunities create recreational activities while generating revenue for operators and excitement for participants. These activities include dice games, board games, and betting on various competitions that provide entertainment and social interaction. Political life in Pompeii involves municipal government, electoral politics, and civic responsibilities that engage citizens in local decision-making while connecting the city to imperial administration and policy. The political activities you might participate in reflect Roman concepts of citizenship and civic duty. The municipal elections that choose local magistrates involve campaigning, voting, and public debate that engage citizens in self-governance while providing opportunities for political advancement and community leadership. These elections demonstrate democratic elements within the Roman system. The public works projects that improve city infrastructure require political decisions about resource allocation, taxation, and long-term planning that affect all residents while creating opportunities for contractors and workers. These projects demonstrate community investment in shared prosperity. The legal system that resolves disputes and maintains order involves courts, magistrates, and legal procedures that protect property rights while providing mechanisms for conflict resolution. The administration of justice reflects Roman legal principles while adapting to local circumstances. The taxation and financial administration that funds public services requires collection systems, record-keeping, and financial planning that enable government operations while creating tensions between public needs and private interests. Religious life permeates daily activities through temple worship, household shrines, public festivals, and personal devotions that connect Pompeians to divine protection while maintaining cultural traditions that define community identity. The major temples dedicated to Roman gods provide focal points for public worship while demonstrating imperial religious policies and local religious preferences. These temples serve both spiritual and social functions within the community. The household shrines that protect families and businesses reflect personal religious practices while connecting private life to divine oversight. These domestic religious practices maintain spiritual relationships that complement public worship. The foreign religious practices that serve immigrant communities include Jewish, Egyptian, and mystery religion worship that reflects Pompeii's cultural diversity while creating distinct religious communities within the larger population. The religious festivals and ceremonies that mark important dates provide community celebration while honoring divine protection and maintaining traditional practices that connect present life to ancestral wisdom. The priesthoods that manage religious activities include both professional clergy and civic officials who oversee temple operations while maintaining religious traditions and community spiritual welfare. These religious leaders possess specialized knowledge while serving important social functions. Family life in Pompeii involves complex relationships that balance individual desires with social expectations while navigating economic pressures and maintaining proper social standing within the community hierarchy. The marriage arrangements that unite families reflect both romantic attachment and economic calculation as families seek alliances that provide financial security while maintaining or improving social status. These marriages create networks that extend beyond individual relationships. The child-rearing practices that prepare young people for adult responsibilities involve education training and socialization that develops both practical skills and cultural knowledge necessary for success in Roman society. The household management that maintains daily life requires coordination of slaves, family members, and resources while meeting social expectations for appropriate lifestyle and hospitality. These domestic responsibilities require significant organizational skills. The inheritance planning that preserves family wealth across generations involves legal arrangements and financial strategies that protect accumulated resources while providing for dependent family members. These arrangements affect long-term family prosperity. The social networking that maintains family position involves relationships with other families, participation in community activities, and demonstration of appropriate cultural values that enhance reputation while providing opportunities for advancement. The generational relationships that connect past, present, and future involve ancestor veneration, family traditions, and legacy planning that create continuity while adapting to changing circumstances. These relationships provide stability while enabling progress. The gender roles that structure family life involve different expectations and opportunities for men and women while creating complementary responsibilities that contribute to family success and social stability. The slave relationships that enable wealthy family life involve complex dynamics of dependence, authority, and intimacy that affect household operations while creating emotional bonds that transcend legal status. These relationships demonstrate the complexity of Roman social organization. The educational opportunities available in Pompeii include private tutoring, school attendance, and apprenticeship programs that develop literacy, practical skills, and cultural knowledge necessary for social and economic advancement. The literary education that develops reading and writing skills provides access to cultural heritage, while enabling participation in business and political activities that require written communication. Literacy represents significant social and economic advantages. The rhetorical training that develops public speaking abilities prepares students for legal and political careers, while teaching persuasion skills that enhance success in various professional activities. These skills are essential for leadership positions. The practical training that develops commercial and craft skills provides alternatives to literary education while enabling economic independence and social mobility through professional competence. These skills offer opportunities for those without elite social connections. The cultural education that transmits Roman values and traditions creates shared identity while preparing individuals for participation in community life. This cultural knowledge enables proper social behavior and community integration. The philosophical education that examines fundamental questions about existence, ethics, and meaning provides intellectual framework for understanding life while developing critical thinking skills that enhance decision-making capabilities. The artistic education that develops creative skills includes training in music, visual arts, and literature that provides cultural enrichment while creating opportunities for professional artistic careers or enhanced social status through cultural accomplishment. The physical education that develops athletic abilities and military skills provides health benefits while preparing young men for potential military service that could be required for community defense or imperial service. The scientific education that examines natural phenomena and technical principles provides understanding of the physical world while developing analytical skills that can be applied to various professional and personal challenges. The medical and health practices available in Pompeii include both professional physicians and traditional remedies that address illness and injury while maintaining the physical well-being necessary for productive life. The physicians who provide medical care possess training and experience that enables treatment of various conditions while offering services that range from routine care to surgical procedures. These professionals provide essential health services. The traditional remedies that supplement professional medicine include herbal treatments, spiritual healing, and folk practices that offer alternative approaches to health maintenance and disease treatment. These practices reflect cultural beliefs about health and healing. The public health measures that prevent disease include sanitation systems, water quality management, and regulation of food safety that protect community health while enabling dense urban living. These measures demonstrate sophisticated understanding of health protection. The physical fitness activities that maintain health and strength include exercise routines, athletic competitions, and manual labor that develop physical capabilities while providing recreational opportunities. Roman culture emphasized physical development alongside intellectual achievement. The dental care that maintains oral health involves both professional treatment and preventive practices that address tooth problems while maintaining appearance and function necessary for social and professional success. The surgical procedures that address serious medical conditions include operations for injuries, tumors, and other conditions that require invasive treatment. These procedures demonstrate advanced medical knowledge while involving significant risks. The pharmaceutical knowledge that enables effective treatment includes understanding of medicinal plants, chemical preparations, and dosage requirements that enable targeted therapy for various conditions while avoiding dangerous side effects. The mental health understanding that addresses psychological problems includes recognition of various mental conditions while providing treatment approaches that combine medical intervention with social support and spiritual healing. As the day progresses toward its catastrophic conclusion, the normal rhythms of Pompeian life continue without any recognition of the approaching disaster. People conduct business, socialize, and plan for the future, while the geological forces that will destroy everything they know gather strength beneath their feet. The seismic activity that had been increasing in recent days is dismissed as normal volcanic behavior, rather than warning signs of impending eruption. Pompeians have lived with minor earthquakes and volcanic activity throughout their lives without experiencing anything comparable to what's about to occur. The morning tremors that shake buildings and rattle objects are noted, but not considered cause for evacuation or emergency preparation. Previous earthquake experience has taught residents that structural damage can be repaired and life can continue normally after seismic events. The animal behavior that might indicate approaching disaster, dogs barking excessively, horses becoming restless birds fleeing the area, is either not noticed or not understood as warning signs of geological catastrophe. Ancient people lacked scientific frameworks for interpreting such behavioral changes. The atmospheric conditions that might provide visual warnings, unusual cloud formations, changes in air pressure, or sulfur odors, are either absent or too subtle to attract attention from people focused on their daily activities rather than environmental observation. At approximately 1:00 p.m., Mount Vesuvius begins the eruption that will destroy Pompeii and every person who cannot escape within the next few hours. The initial explosion sends an enormous column of ash, pumice, and volcanic debris 20 miles into the atmosphere, creating a mushroom-shaped cloud that will eventually collapse and bury the city. The eruption begins with a massive explosion that can be heard for hundreds of miles, while creating a spectacular and terrifying display that immediately attracts attention throughout the region. The sound and visual impact make it clear that something unprecedented is occurring. The initial ashfall that begins within hours creates a grey snowfall that quickly accumulates on buildings, streets, and people, while making breathing difficult and visibility poor. This ashfall continues for hours, gradually burying the city under several feet of volcanic debris. The pumice stones that rain down alongside the ash create additional hazards as they accumulate weight on roofs, while providing missiles that can injure people caught in the open. The combination of ash and pumice creates accumulating debris that makes movement increasingly difficult. The panic that grips the city as residents realize the scale of the disaster leads to desperate escape attempts as people abandon their possessions and attempt to flee before escape routes become impassable. The social order breaks down as survival becomes the only priority. The escape attempts that begin immediately after the eruption starts involve people fleeing on foot, by cart, or by boat, as they attempt to reach safety before volcanic activity makes travel impossible. Many of these escape attempts succeed, which explains why only about 2,000 bodies have been found in a city of 20,000 residents. The evacuation routes that offer potential salvation include roads leading away from the volcano boats departing from nearby harbours and paths through the countryside that might provide refuge from volcanic activity. Success depends on leaving immediately and moving quickly towards safety. The obstacles that prevent escape include accumulated ash and pumice that blocks roads, collapsed buildings that obstruct pathways, and the physical challenges of moving through volcanic debris while carrying essential possessions. These obstacles become increasingly severe as the eruption continues. The survival decisions that people face involve choosing between personal safety and protection of family members, deciding what possessions to take or abandon, and determining which escape routes offer the best chances for survival. These decisions must be made quickly under extreme stress. The family groups that attempt to escape together face coordination challenges while dealing with different physical capabilities and competing priorities about possessions versus speed. These group dynamics affect survival chances while creating emotional stress that complicates decision-making. The individual survivors who escape alone often do so by abandoning everything and everyone to focus solely on personal survival. These successful escapees demonstrate the harsh calculations required for survival while illustrating the breakdown of normal social obligations under extreme pressure. The boat evacuations that succeed in removing people from the immediate disaster area involve both private vessels and commercial ships that provide transportation away from the volcanic zone. These marine evacuations demonstrate the importance of alternative transportation when land routes become impassable. The overland escapes that succeed involve people who leave immediately and move quickly along routes that remain passable despite accumulating volcanic debris. These successful evacuations require physical fitness, good timing, and knowledge of alternative routes that avoid the worst volcanic effects. The pyroclastic flow that eventually destroys everyone remaining in the city moves at over 400 miles per hour while carrying superheated gas and volcanic material that kills instantly through heat shock and asphyxiation. This flow cannot be outrun once it begins moving down the mountain slopes. The final moments for those caught in the pyroclastic flow involve instant death from heat and toxic gases that preserve their bodies in the exact positions they occupied when the flow struck. These preserved remains provide detailed evidence about how people spent their final moments. The preservation process that creates the plaster cast visible in modern museums involves volcanic material that hardens around bodies before decomposition occurs, creating molds that preserve exact details of clothing, facial expressions, and body positions at the moment of death. The archaeological evidence that reveals daily life in Pompeii includes not just the preserved bodies, but also buildings artifacts, food remains, and inscriptions that provide comprehensive documentation of Roman urban life frozen at a specific moment in time. The family groups found together in death demonstrate both the success and failure of evacuation attempts, while revealing the human bonds that kept people together even when separation might have improved individual survival chances. The individual victims found in various locations throughout the city reveal different survival strategies and final moments, while providing evidence about how different people responded to the disaster based on their circumstances and capabilities. The building collapses that killed some victims before the pyroclastic flow arrived demonstrate how volcanic debris accumulation created structural failures that trapped people before the final deadly wave of superheated gas and ash reached them. The artifact preservation that accompanies human remains includes personal possessions, tools, furniture, and decorative objects that provide detailed evidence about material culture while revealing the prosperity and sophistication of Pompeian society. The social lessons revealed by Pompeii's destruction include insights into Roman family relationships, economic activities, religious practices, and cultural values that might have been lost if the city had continued evolving rather than being preserved by volcanic catastrophe. The modern tourist experience at Pompeii allows visitors to walk through streets and buildings that provide direct connection to ancient Roman life while confronting the human cost of natural disasters that can strike without warning. The site serves both educational and memorial functions. The scientific knowledge gained from studying Pompeii includes understanding of volcanic processes, archaeological techniques, and preservation methods that advance multiple fields of research while providing warnings about contemporary volcanic hazards that threaten modern populations. The cultural impact of Pompeii's story extends far beyond archaeological or scientific significance to influence art, literature, and popular culture, while providing powerful metaphors for unexpected catastrophe and the fragility of human civilization in the face of natural forces. Understanding daily life in Pompeii before its destruction helps modern people appreciate both the sophistication of Roman civilization and the vulnerability of all human communities to forces beyond their control, while providing perspective on the risks and benefits of urban living. The preservation of Pompeii serves as a unique window into ancient daily life, while reminding us that the routines and assumptions that structure our daily existence can be shattered instantly by forces we neither understand nor control, making every ordinary day a gift that should be appreciated rather than taken for granted. Chinese Han Dynasty Court intrigue. It's in the forbidden purple city of Chang'an, capital of the Han Empire, at its zenith around 150 AD. You wake up each morning knowing that a single wrong word, an unintended slight, or even a misinterpreted glance could trigger political machinations that would destroy not just you, but 3 generations of your family. The elegant palaces and sophisticated court ceremonies that surround you conceal a political system so ruthlessly complex that survival requires constant vigilance, perfect knowledge of ever-shifting alliances, and the ability to navigate deadly intrigues while maintaining the appearance of serene loyalty. You might think you understand Chinese imperial politics from popular dramas or historical novels, but the reality of Han court life was far more sophisticated and dangerous than any fiction could capture. This wasn't simply a matter of competing for the emperor's favor. It was a multi-dimensional chess game where every move had consequences that could reverberate for generations, where family honor could be destroyed by association with the wrong faction, and where the emperor himself was often just another piece being manipulated by forces he couldn't control. Welcome to the Han Imperial Court, where 60,000 people live within the palace complex, and every one of them represents either an opportunity or a threat to your survival, where the mandate of heaven could shift based on astronomical observations and natural disasters, and where the penalty for political miscalculation wasn't just personal death, but the complete eradication of your family line from the imperial records. The political landscape that greets you each morning in the Han Court represents one of history's most complex governmental systems, where power flows through multiple competing hierarchies that include the imperial family court, eunuchs, military generals, scholar bureaucrats, and provincial governors whose shifting alliances determine not just policy but survival for everyone caught within the system. The emperor, theoretically possessed of absolute power under the mandate of heaven, actually functions as the focal point for competing factions that seek to influence his decisions while using imperial authority to advance their own interests. The Son of Heaven is simultaneously the most powerful and most constrained person in the empire, capable of ordering executions with a word but vulnerable to manipulation by those who control access to information and advice. The palace architecture itself reflects this complex power structure, with layer upon layer of walls, gates, and courtyards that create physical barriers while establishing hierarchical zones where different levels of access determine political influence. The deeper into the palace complex you can penetrate, the greater your potential power, and the greater the danger you face from rivals seeking to eliminate competition. The imperial family represents the most dangerous political environment in the court, as princes, consorts, and relatives compete for succession rights, while navigating complex relationships that combine genuine family affection with deadly political calculation. Every conversation involves potential succession implications, and every gesture is analysed for signs of disloyalty or ambition that could trigger preemptive strikes from rival claimants. The succession laws that govern imperial inheritance create constant instability, as the emperor's death could trigger civil war between competing claimants supported by different court factions. This succession uncertainty affects every political decision, as court officials must consider how their current alliances might affect their future survival under different potential rulers. The empress and imperial consorts wield enormous influence through their intimate access to the emperor, while representing different family interests that compete for imperial favour. These women often prove more politically astute than male court officials, while operating through networks of eunuch servants and family connections that span the entire court system. The imperial princes who represent potential future emperors create alternative power centers that attract ambitious court officials seeking to position themselves advantageously for future reigns. These princely courts develop their own factional structures while maintaining the delicate balance of demonstrating loyalty to the current emperor while preparing for potential succession opportunities. The eunuch hierarchy that manages palace administration has evolved into a shadow government that often wields more practical power than official ministers, as these castrated men develop intense loyalty to the court system that provides their only source of identity and advancement. The eunuchs control access to the emperor while managing the daily operations that keep the imperial system functioning. The castration process that creates eunuchs involves surgical removal of male genitalia that eliminates the possibility of founding competing dynasties while creating psychological dependence on the imperial system for identity and purpose. This physical sacrifice enables unique forms of political power while ensuring that eunuch influence cannot be passed to biological descendants. The eunuch recruitment that supplies palace administration draws from multiple sources, including voluntary self-castration by ambitious young men, punishment, castration for various crimes, and systematic recruitment of children from poor families who view eunuch service as economic opportunity despite its physical costs. The eunuch education that prepares these men for court service includes literacy, administrative skills, and cultural knowledge that enables sophisticated governmental participation while developing the specialized expertise needed for palace management. This education creates some of the most capable administrators in the empire while ensuring their complete dependence on imperial patronage. The eunuch factions that develop within palace administration compete for control over different aspects of court life while creating parallel governmental structures that can override official ministerial authority. These internal conflicts affect imperial decision-making while creating opportunities for manipulation by outside interests. The eunuch corruption that characterizes much court administration involves elaborate systems of bribery, favoritism, and influence peddling that enable essential coordination while undermining official governmental procedures. These corruption networks create alternative power structures that often prove more effective than formal bureaucratic channels. The eunuch influence over imperial decisions occurs through their daily intimate contact with the emperor, while managing information flow that shapes imperial understanding of external events and internal court dynamics. This informational control creates enormous power while making eunuch loyalty crucial for imperial effectiveness. The scholar-bureaucrat class that provides intellectual legitimacy for imperial rule represents Confucian ideals of virtuous governance while engaging in political machinations that often contradict their stated principles. These educated officials compete for appointments and advancement through literary skill, moral reputation, and political connections that determine their ability to influence policy. The examination system that theoretically provides merit-based advancement creates opportunities for talented individuals from modest backgrounds while being systematically corrupted by wealthy families who can afford the education and connections necessary for success. These examinations test literary knowledge and moral philosophy while having little relationship to administrative competence. The Confucian ideology that provides philosophical foundation for scholar-bureaucrat authority emphasizes moral cultivation, social harmony, and virtuous leadership, while creating justification for educated elite rule over the general population. This intellectual framework provides legitimacy for bureaucratic power, while creating standards that can be used to criticize imperial policies. The factional disputes that divide scholar bureaucrats involve conflicts between different philosophical interpretations, regional loyalties, and personal ambitions that create competing networks within the official governmental structure. These intellectual disagreements often mask deeper struggles for power and advancement. The literary culture that defines scholar-bureaucrat identity involves poetry composition, historical scholarship, and philosophical writing that demonstrates cultural sophistication while creating opportunities for political communication through coded artistic expression. These cultural activities serve both intellectual and political functions while providing ways to express dissent or support through seemingly neutral artistic work. The regional networks that connect scholar bureaucrats from similar geographical backgrounds create informal support systems while establishing competing power bases that can challenge central authority. These regional connections often override ideological differences while providing mutual assistance in political advancement. The patronage systems that determine scholarly careers involve complex relationships between senior officials and junior protégés that create obligations and dependencies extending across multiple generations. These mentorship networks shape policy formation while ensuring continuity of political relationships despite personnel changes. The military hierarchy that protects the dynasty creates parallel power structures that can either support or threaten imperial authority, depending on the loyalty of generals and the effectiveness of civil control over armed forces. The relationship between civilian and military authority requires careful balance to prevent both internal rebellion and external invasion. The frontier generals who command armies defending against barbarian invasion develop independent power bases while maintaining essential military capabilities that protect imperial territory. These military leaders often become semi-autonomous rulers whose loyalty must be carefully maintained through rewards and careful monitoring. The Imperial Guard units that protect the palace and capital represent the most politically sensitive military forces while being composed of troops whose loyalty must be absolutely certain. These elite units receive special privileges and benefits while being subjected to constant surveillance and ideological indoctrination. The military recruitment that supplies imperial armies involves conscription systems that draw soldiers from agricultural populations while creating opportunities for social advancement through military service. The quality and loyalty of these forces determine imperial security while affecting social stability throughout the empire. The weapons technology that determines military effectiveness includes sophisticated metallurgy siege equipment and tactical innovations that maintain Chinese military superiority while requiring continuous investment in research and development. These technological advances affect both military and civilian aspects of imperial society. The logistics systems that support military operations involve complex supply networks that can provision armies operating hundreds of miles from their bases while demonstrating remarkable administrative capabilities. These supply systems represent major governmental achievements while requiring enormous resources and coordination. Your daily routine begins before dawn with the preparation rituals that enable you to present yourself appropriately for the day's political challenges. Every aspect of your appearance, from clothing selection to hairstyle arrangement, sends messages about your status, loyalties, and current political position that will be read and interpreted by everyone you encounter. The clothing protocols that govern court dress involve complex systems of colors, fabrics, ornaments, and accessories that indicate rank, factional affiliation, and seasonal appropriateness, while providing opportunities for subtle political communication through careful selection and arrangement. These dress codes are strictly enforced, and violations can indicate either ignorance or deliberate disrespect. The makeup and grooming standards expected at court require significant time and assistance while creating appearances that conform to aesthetic ideals and political necessities. The powdered faces, elaborate hairstyles, and precise ornament placement that characterize court appearance serve both beauty and communication functions. The morning audiences that structure palace life involve formal ceremonies where court officials present reports, receive instructions, and participate in rituals that maintain imperial dignity while providing opportunities for political maneuvering. These audiences follow strict protocols that leave little room for spontaneous interaction, but create opportunities for careful observers to gather intelligence. The seating arrangements and positioning protocols that govern these audiences reflect current political relationships while providing visual displays of hierarchy and favor that communicate power structures to all participants. Changes in seating assignments can signal shifting alliances or imperial displeasure that affect subsequent political calculations. The tributary presentations and gift exchanges that occur during morning audiences create opportunities for regional governors and foreign ambassadors to demonstrate loyalty while seeking favor through carefully selected offerings that display both wealth and cultural sophistication. Your breakfast routine involves not just nutrition but political intelligence gathering, as the selection of dining companions, conversation topics, and even food choices can provide information about current political currents while creating opportunities to influence others' perceptions and alliances. The servant networks that manage daily life also function as information gathering systems, as palace staff develop relationships that cross factional boundaries while providing access to gossip rumors and intelligence that can prove crucial for political survival. The servants who dress you, serve your meals, and clean your quarters often possess more accurate information about court politics than official reports. The morning preparation involves reviewing overnight intelligence about political developments, analyzing the implications of recent appointments or dismissals, and planning the day's activities to advance your interests, while avoiding actions that might be misinterpreted as threats or disloyalty by rival factions. The factional politics that dominate court life involve complex alliances that shift based on immediate interests, long-term strategic calculations, and personal relationships that can override ideological or policy considerations. Understanding these factional dynamics requires constant attention to personnel changes, marriage alliances, and economic relationships that affect political balance. The Confucian faction that emphasizes moral governance and educational achievement often conflicts with pragmatic administrators who prioritize efficiency and results over ideological purity. These philosophical differences create ongoing tension between different approaches to governance, while providing opportunities for ambitious politicians to exploit disagreements. The military faction that supports aggressive expansion and strong defense often opposes court officials who prefer diplomatic solutions and domestic investment. These policy disagreements reflect deeper conflicts about imperial priorities while creating alliances that cross other factional boundaries. The regional factions that represent different geographical areas within the empire compete for imperial resources and attention while advocating for policies that benefit their home regions. These geographical loyalties often override other considerations while creating predictable alliance patterns. The family factions that center around powerful clans use marriage alliances, patronage networks, and economic relationships to maintain influence across multiple generations. These family-based political systems create stability, but also corruption as public and private interests become inseparable. The eunuch factions that develop within palace administration reflect different approaches to power and advancement, while competing for control over access to the emperor and management of palace operations. These internal conflicts can affect imperial decision-making, while creating opportunities for outside manipulation. The economic interests that underlie political factions include control over trade routes, tax collection systems, and imperial monopolies that generate wealth while providing resources for political activities. The intersection of economic and political power creates corruption while ensuring that policy decisions reflect financial considerations. Your daily schedule involves a complex series of appointments, ceremonies, and informal meetings that serve both official functions and political intelligence gathering, while providing opportunities to advance your interests and monitor potential threats from rival court members. The formal court sessions that structure official business involve presentations of reports, policy discussions, and ceremonial activities that maintain imperial dignity while providing opportunities for careful political maneuvering within established protocols. These sessions require preparation and strategic thinking to maximize opportunities while avoiding political mistakes. The informal social gatherings that occur throughout the day provide opportunities for coalition building, information exchange, and relationship maintenance that often prove more important than formal meetings for actual political influence. These social interactions require different skills than official court protocols, while offering more flexibility for political creativity. The cultural activities that fill court schedules include poetry competitions, musical performances, and artistic presentations that serve both entertainment and political functions, as participants demonstrate cultural sophistication while building relationships and signaling factional affiliations through aesthetic choices. The religious ceremonies that mark imperial calendar events provide opportunities for political display while reinforcing the spiritual foundations of imperial authority. Participation in these ceremonies is both religious obligation and political necessity, as absence or inappropriate behavior can signal disloyalty. The educational activities that maintain court intellectual life include scholarly discussions, examination of historical precedents, and analysis of contemporary problems that influence policy while providing opportunities for intellectual advancement and political positioning through demonstrated knowledge and wisdom. The surveillance systems that monitor court life involve both official intelligence networks and informal observation systems that track behavior relationships and communications for security purposes, while creating constant awareness that all actions are being watched and recorded for potential future use. The communication protocols that govern information flow within the court involve formal reporting systems, informal gossip networks, and coded language that enables essential coordination while protecting sensitive information from inappropriate disclosure. These communication systems require careful management to maintain effectiveness while preventing misunderstandings. Your evening activities involve social obligations that are simultaneously recreational and political. As dinner parties, cultural events, and private meetings provide opportunities for coalition building while requiring careful navigation of competing loyalties and interests that can shift rapidly based on new information or changing circumstances. The dinner party politics that characterize court social life involve careful guest selection, menu planning, entertainment choices, and conversation management that serve hospitality functions while advancing political objectives through relationship building and information exchange. These social events often determine political outcomes more than formal meetings. The cultural performances that entertain court gatherings also provide opportunities for political commentary through artistic choices, literary references, and aesthetic preferences that communicate sophisticated messages to educated audiences while maintaining plausible deniability about political intentions. The private meetings that occur during evening social events enable confidential discussions about sensitive political topics while providing opportunities for negotiation and alliance building that cannot occur during formal court sessions where all communications are monitored and recorded. The marriage politics that shape court life involve strategic family alliances that extend across generations while creating networks of obligation and mutual support that influence political decision-making. These marriage arrangements require careful negotiation between families while considering both immediate political advantages and long-term strategic implications. The succession politics that underlie all court activities involve complex calculations about imperial heir designation, regency arrangements, and power transfer procedures that affect every political decision while creating incentives for both loyalty and rebellion, depending on individual position relative to succession possibilities. The military politics that affect court stability involve relationships between palace guards, frontier generals, and imperial armies that must be carefully managed to prevent coup attempts while maintaining effective defense against external threats. The balance between civilian and military authority requires constant attention and adjustment. The disaster management that tests court effectiveness involves responses to natural disasters, military defeats, and economic crises that can undermine imperial legitimacy, while providing opportunities for political advancement through effective crisis response or scapegoating of rival factions for failures. The natural disaster interpretation that falls under court, astronomical, and divination specialists can trigger major political changes, as unusual celestial events, earthquakes, floods, or other phenomena are interpreted as signs of divine displeasure with imperial policies or personnel, creating opportunities for factional advancement through religious interpretation. The economic crisis management that affects court stability involves responses to tax collection failures, trade disruptions, and fiscal problems that require policy adjustments, while creating opportunities for different factions to advance their preferred solutions through effective crisis response or blame assignment for problems. The military crisis management that can destabilize court politics involves responses to frontier invasions, internal rebellions, and strategic threats that require rapid decision-making, while creating opportunities for military leaders to gain political influence through successful campaign management, or for court officials to marginalize military rivals through strategic sabotage. The intelligence networks that monitor both internal and external threats involve complex systems of spies, informants, and surveillance specialists who provide early warning about potential problems while creating their own political dynamics, as intelligence agencies develop institutional interests that may conflict with imperial objectives or factional loyalties. The corruption systems that permeate court operations involve elaborate networks of bribery, favoritism, and influence peddling that enable essential coordination while undermining official governance structures. These corruption networks create parallel power systems that often prove more effective than official channels for accomplishing objectives while generating resentment and instability. The punishment systems that enforce court discipline involve graduated sanctions ranging from social ostracism to family extermination that maintain order while creating terror that influences all political calculations. The severity and unpredictability of imperial justice create incentives for both loyalty and conspiracy, as court members seek protection through factional alliances. The execution protocols that eliminate political threats involve elaborate ceremonies that demonstrate imperial power while sending messages about the consequences of disloyalty. These public displays serve both justice and propaganda functions while creating opportunities for rival factions to eliminate enemies through manufactured accusations. The family destruction policies that extend punishment beyond individual offenders involve systematic elimination of relatives and associates that ensures complete removal of potential revenge seekers while demonstrating the scope of imperial authority. These collective punishment systems create powerful incentives for political loyalty, while generating hatred that can motivate future rebellion. The exile systems that remove threats without execution involve banishment to remote provinces where political influence becomes impossible, while survival depends on adapting to harsh conditions far from court luxury. These exile punishments often prove more psychologically devastating than death, while providing opportunities for eventual rehabilitation if political circumstances change. The social rehabilitation that sometimes follows political disgrace involves complex processes of demonstrating renewed loyalty while rebuilding relationships and credibility that have been destroyed by previous political mistakes. These rehabilitation efforts require patience and skill, while offering hope that political miscalculation need not result in permanent destruction. Your survival in this environment requires mastering multiple sophisticated skills, including reading subtle social cues that indicate shifting political currents, maintaining relationships across factional boundaries without appearing disloyal to any group, and presenting information in ways that advance your interests while avoiding responsibility for negative consequences. The social intelligence that enables court survival involves understanding personality types, predicting behavioral patterns, and manipulating interpersonal dynamics to achieve desired outcomes while maintaining the appearance of natural social interaction. These social skills often prove more important than administrative competence for political advancement. The information management that determines political success involves controlling access to intelligence while sharing appropriate information with allies and misdirecting enemies through selective disclosure and strategic deception. The ability to gather, analyze, and distribute information effectively determines Gjord's political influence more than official rank or family connections. The alliance building that creates political security requires balancing competing loyalties while maintaining enough flexibility to adapt to changing circumstances without appearing unreliable or opportunistic. These relationship management skills enable survival during political transitions while providing platforms for advancement when opportunities arise. The risk assessment that guides daily decisions involves calculating the potential consequences of various actions while considering how they might be interpreted by different factions under various future scenarios. This strategic thinking requires both analytical ability and intuitive understanding of human nature. The reputation management that maintains political viability involves controlling public perception while responding to rumors and accusations that can destroy credibility regardless of their accuracy. The ability to shape narrative and counter negative publicity often determines long-term political survival more than actual performance or moral behavior. The crisis response that demonstrates political value involves remaining effective during emergencies while positioning yourself to benefit from successful outcomes or avoid blame for failures. These crisis management skills create opportunities for advancement while testing all aspects of political competence under extreme pressure. The cultural intelligence that enables court effectiveness involves understanding historical precedents, literary references, and aesthetic principles that inform political communication while demonstrating the educational sophistication expected of court officials. This cultural knowledge provides tools for sophisticated political messaging while creating shared vocabulary for elite communication. The ritual competence that maintains social standing involves perfect performance of ceremonial obligations while understanding the political implications of various ritual choices and behavioral options. These ceremonial skills demonstrate respect for tradition while providing opportunities for subtle political communication through symbolic action. The language skills that enable political communication involve mastery of classical literary forms, contemporary court vocabulary, and coded expressions that convey sophisticated meanings while maintaining plausible deniability about controversial topics. These linguistic abilities enable precise political messaging while protecting against accusations of inappropriate communication. The astronomical knowledge that influences political interpretation involves understanding celestial observations and their traditional meanings while participating in the interpretation process that can justify major political changes. This specialized knowledge creates opportunities for political influence through religious authority while requiring genuine intellectual competence. The historical knowledge that provides political context involves mastery of precedents and traditional interpretations that inform contemporary decision-making while providing justification for various policy choices. This scholarly expertise creates credibility while enabling sophisticated political argumentation based on respected authorities. The economic understanding that enables political effectiveness involves comprehending fiscal systems, trade relationships, and resource allocation processes that affect imperial stability while creating opportunities for corruption or legitimate advancement through financial expertise. The military knowledge that influences security policy involves understanding strategic principles, technological capabilities, and organizational systems that affect imperial defense, while providing opportunities for political advancement through security expertise or for undermining rivals through strategic sabotage. The legal expertise that enables political maneuvering involves mastering administrative procedures, precedent interpretation, and regulatory systems that can be used to advance interests while maintaining the appearance of proper governance. This legal knowledge creates tools for both advancement and self-protection within complex bureaucratic systems. The technological awareness that affects imperial administration involves understanding engineering capabilities, communication systems, and innovation processes that influence governmental effectiveness while creating opportunities for advancement through technical expertise. The foreign intelligence that influences imperial policy involves understanding external threats, diplomatic relationships, and cultural differences that affect strategic decision-making, while providing opportunities for advancement through international expertise or for creating crises that benefit particular factions. The religious knowledge that maintains imperial legitimacy involves understanding traditional beliefs, ceremonial requirements, and spiritual interpretations that support imperial authority while providing opportunities for political influence through religious expertise. The artistic sophistication that demonstrates cultural competence involves understanding aesthetic principles, creative traditions, and cultural symbolism that inform political communication while providing opportunities for advancement through cultural leadership and artistic patronage. The medical knowledge that affects court health involves understanding traditional treatments, preventive practices, and diagnostic methods that maintain the physical well-being necessary for political effectiveness, while creating opportunities for influence through health expertise. The agricultural expertise that influences imperial economics involves understanding farming techniques, crop management, and rural administration that affect imperial revenue, while providing opportunities for advancement through agricultural innovation or rural governance expertise. The end of each day brings reflection on the political developments that have occurred, while planning for the challenges and opportunities that tomorrow will bring in an environment where survival depends on perfect performance and constant vigilance. The evening intelligence review that concludes each day involves analyzing the political significance of observed events while updating your understanding of factional relationships and strategic opportunities that will influence future planning and decision-making. The relationship assessment that guides future planning involves evaluating the current status of various political alliances while identifying opportunities for strengthening beneficial relationships or neutralizing potential threats through strategic action. The strategic planning that prepares for future challenges involves anticipating likely political developments while developing contingency plans that can adapt to various scenarios depending on how current tensions and opportunities evolve. The risk mitigation that protects against political dangers involves implementing security measures while building defensive alliances that can provide protection if current strategies fail or circumstances change unexpectedly. Understanding Han court politics helps modern people appreciate both the sophisticated intelligence required for survival in complex political environments and the human costs of systems that subordinate individual welfare to political necessity, while creating remarkable administrative achievements through the systematic exploitation of human ambition and fear. The legacy of Han political culture continues to influence Chinese governance, while providing insights into the relationship between administrative effectiveness and political oppression that remain relevant for understanding contemporary authoritarian systems and their impact on individual liberty and social development. Mayan Royal Bloodletting Rituals. In the sacred precincts of Copan around 730 AD, as the classic Maya civilization reaches its peak of artistic and intellectual achievement, You prepare for ritual bloodletting ceremonies that would kill most modern people from shock alone, while believing that your agony and potential death serve as essential communication with gods whose favor determines not just your personal fate, but the survival of your entire civilization. You might think you understand ancient religious practices from archaeological reconstructions or museum displays, but Mayan royal bloodletting involved levels of deliberate self-torture that challenge modern comprehension of what human beings can endure in service of spiritual beliefs. This wasn't symbolic ritual or theatrical performance, but systematic self-mutilation designed to create altered states of consciousness while generating the blood sacrifice that Mayan cosmology demanded for maintaining cosmic order. Welcome to the world of Mayan divine kingship, where rulers proved their worthiness through public demonstrations of pain tolerance that would hospitalize modern people where royal blood was considered so sacred that its sacrifice could influence astronomical cycles, and where failure to perform adequate bloodletting could trigger political collapse as divine favor shifted to rivals who demonstrated greater devotion through more spectacular suffering. The cosmic framework that justifies and demands royal bloodletting permeates every aspect of Mayan civilization, creating a universe where human sacrifice maintains the fundamental forces that keep the world functioning, while establishing divine kingship as the essential interface between earthly reality and supernatural power. The Mayan creation mythology establishes blood sacrifice as the fundamental principle underlying all existence, as the gods themselves bled to create humanity, while demanding ongoing blood offerings to maintain the cosmic order they established. This cosmological framework makes bloodletting not just religious obligation, but existential necessity for the survival of the world itself. The calendar systems that govern ritual timing integrate astronomical observations with religious requirements to determine when bloodletting ceremonies must occur to maintain cosmic harmony. These complex calculations require specialized knowledge while creating inflexible schedules that cannot be modified based on personal health or political convenience. The divine kingship ideology that legitimizes royal authority depends on the ruler's ability to communicate directly with gods through blood sacrifice, while demonstrating supernatural power through survival of extreme pain and blood loss. This religious foundation makes political authority inseparable from religious performance, while creating constant pressure for increasingly spectacular demonstrations of devotion. The bloodline sanctity that distinguishes royal families from commoners creates genetic requirements for ritual participation, while establishing hereditary obligations that cannot be avoided or delegated to substitutes. Royal children are raised knowing that their future will require regular self-torture that serves both religious and political functions. The architectural settings that frame bloodletting ceremonies include temple complexes designed to amplify the spiritual and political impact of ritual performance, while providing appropriate sacred space for communication with supernatural forces. These buildings create theatre that enhances the psychological impact of bloodletting, while demonstrating royal wealth and artistic sophistication. The artistic representations that document bloodletting practices include sculptures, paintings, and decorative objects that preserve detailed information about ritual procedures, while creating permanent records of royal devotion that justify continued political authority. These artistic works serve both documentary and propaganda functions. The preparation rituals that precede royal bloodletting involve extensive purification ceremonies, spiritual meditation, and physical conditioning designed to maximize the ceremonial impact, while preparing participants for extreme pain and blood loss that could prove fatal if approached without proper preparation. The fasting protocols that prepare the body for bloodletting involve systematic food and water restriction that creates altered states of consciousness, while reducing blood volume to levels that make subsequent bleeding more spiritually significant. These fasting periods can extend for days, while requiring medical knowledge to prevent death from dehydration. The purification ceremonies that prepare participants spiritually involve ritual bathing, incense burning, and spiritual meditation that create appropriate mental states for divine communication, while demonstrating the sacred nature of upcoming bloodletting activities. These purification rituals establish religious authority while building psychological preparation for physical trauma. The costume preparation that accompanies bloodletting ceremonies involves elaborate dress and ornamentation that demonstrates royal status while incorporating religious symbolism that enhances the spiritual effectiveness of blood sacrifice. These costumes often include jade feathers and precious metals that display wealth while serving ceremonial functions. The musical preparation that creates appropriate atmosphere for bloodletting involves specialized instruments and ritual compositions that induce trance states while announcing the sacred nature of ceremonial activities to participating audiences. These musical elements enhance psychological impact while providing timing cues for complex ritual procedures. The audience preparation that ensures proper witness to royal bloodletting involves gathering appropriate participants who can provide political validation while maintaining religious protocols that govern who may observe different aspects of sacred ceremonies. These audience management requirements reflect both political and religious considerations. The tool preparation that enables effective bloodletting involves obsidian blades, stingray spines, and other specialized implements that create precise wounds while incorporating religious symbolism into the instruments used for sacred self-torture. These tools require careful preparation and consecration before use in religious ceremonies. The bloodletting procedures themselves involve systematic self-mutilation techniques that maximize blood flow while creating wounds that can be survived with appropriate medical care, though the risk of death from blood loss or infection remains significant, even with expert preparation and treatment. The tongue piercing that serves as the most common form of royal bloodletting involves driving obsidian blades or stingray spines through the tongue while maintaining consciousness and continuing to perform religious obligations despite extreme pain and blood loss. This procedure creates dramatic visual effects while enabling speech necessary for ritual communication. The genital piercing that represents the most extreme form of male royal bloodletting involves driving implements through the penis while maintaining the composure necessary for continued ceremonial participation. This procedure creates enormous blood loss while testing pain tolerance to its absolute limits. The ear piercing that accompanies other bloodletting procedures involves systematic perforation of earlobes and cartilage, while incorporating religious symbolism into the positioning and number of wounds created. These procedures add to overall blood loss while creating permanent scarring that documents participation in bloodletting ceremonies. The limb cutting that supplements piercing procedures involves systematic incisions on arms and legs that increase blood flow while creating geometric patterns that incorporate religious and artistic symbolism into wound placement. These cutting procedures require precise technique to avoid permanent damage while maximizing ceremonial impact. The blood collection that preserves sacred fluid for ritual use involves gathering blood in specially prepared containers while ensuring that none of the sacred substance is wasted or contaminated by inappropriate contact. This blood collection requires careful handling while maintaining religious protocols that govern sacred substance management. The vision quest experiences that accompany severe blood loss involve altered states of consciousness that enable direct communication with supernatural forces while providing religious validation for royal authority through divine revelation. These visionary experiences require surviving extreme blood loss while maintaining enough consciousness to receive and remember divine communications. The medical management that enables survival of extreme bloodletting involves traditional healing knowledge and emergency treatment techniques that prevent death from blood loss while maintaining the religious authenticity necessary for ceremonial effectiveness. This medical support must be provided without interfering with spiritual processes that require uninterrupted divine communication. The recovery procedures that follow bloodletting ceremonies involve traditional medical treatment combined with continued religious observation, while participants heal from wounds that can take weeks to close properly. These recovery periods require ongoing medical care while maintaining religious protocols that govern post-ceremony behavior. The wound care that prevents infection involves traditional healing knowledge and herbal treatments that promote healing while preventing complications that could prove fatal in environments where modern medical intervention is unavailable. This medical knowledge represents sophisticated understanding of human physiology and traditional pharmacology. The blood replacement that enables survival of massive blood loss involves traditional medical techniques and nutritional support that help the body recover from extreme bleeding while maintaining the physical strength necessary for continued royal obligations. These recovery methods demonstrate advanced understanding of human biology and medical treatment. The pain management that enables endurance of extreme suffering involves traditional techniques including herbal medicines, meditation practices, and spiritual conditioning that allow participants to survive procedures that would incapacitate untrained individuals. These pain management methods require extensive training and psychological preparation. The psychological conditioning that prepares participants for extreme bloodletting involves lifelong training in pain tolerance, spiritual devotion, and mental discipline that enables survival of procedures that would break mentally unprepared individuals. This psychological preparation begins in childhood and continues throughout life. The social functions served by royal bloodletting extend beyond religious obligation to include political legitimation, artistic inspiration, and cultural identity formation that makes these ceremonies central to Mayan civilization's intellectual and spiritual achievements. The political legitimation that bloodletting provides creates public validation of royal authority while demonstrating the ruler's unique relationship with supernatural forces that ordinary people cannot access. This political function makes bloodletting essential for maintaining royal power while creating pressure for increasingly spectacular demonstrations. The artistic inspiration that bloodletting generates influences all forms of Mayan cultural expression, while providing themes and imagery that characterize civilization's greatest artistic achievements. These ceremonial influences can be seen in sculpture, painting, architecture, and decorative arts that preserve and celebrate bloodletting traditions. The cultural identity formation that bloodletting enables creates shared values and beliefs that unite Mayan society, while distinguishing it from neighboring civilizations that lack comparable devotional practices. These cultural functions make bloodletting central to Mayan identity, while creating religious foundations for political unity. The religious education that bloodletting provides demonstrates theological principles while teaching spiritual lessons that influence all aspects of Mayan intellectual life. These educational functions make ceremonies essential for transmitting religious knowledge while creating shared understanding of divine requirements. The community bonding that bloodletting ceremonies create brings together different social classes while providing shared experiences that transcend normal social boundaries. These community functions strengthen social cohesion while creating emotional bonds that support political stability. The seasonal celebrations that incorporate bloodletting align religious practice with agricultural cycles while ensuring that divine favor supports crop production and community prosperity. These seasonal functions make bloodletting essential for economic survival while connecting religious practice to practical concerns. The astronomical observations that accompany bloodletting ceremonies provide opportunities for scientific research while connecting mathematical knowledge to religious practice. These intellectual functions demonstrate the integration of rational inquiry with spiritual devotion that characterizes Mayan civilization. The historical documentation that bloodletting ceremonies provide creates permanent records of royal performance while establishing precedents for future ceremonial requirements. These documentary functions preserve religious traditions while providing evidence of royal devotion for political purposes. The international diplomacy that bloodletting enables demonstrates Mayan religious sophistication while impressing foreign visitors with evidence of divine favor and royal courage. These diplomatic functions support political relationships while advancing Mayan cultural influence. The economic implications of bloodletting ceremonies involve massive resource allocation for ceremonial requirements while creating economic activity that supports specialized craftsmen and religious professionals. These economic functions make bloodletting central to Mayan economic systems while creating employment opportunities for skilled workers. The decline of bloodletting practices accompanies broader changes in Mayan civilization while reflecting shifts in religious belief, political organization, and cultural values that transform the spiritual foundations of royal authority and social organization. The Spanish conquest that ended traditional bloodletting involved systematic suppression of indigenous religious practices while imposing Christian beliefs that condemned blood sacrifice as demonic rather than divine. This religious transformation destroyed traditional spiritual frameworks while eliminating cultural practices that had sustained Mayan civilization for centuries. The archaeological preservation that documents bloodletting practices provides modern evidence of ceremonial procedures while enabling scholarly understanding of religious beliefs that were deliberately destroyed by colonial authorities. These archaeological discoveries reveal sophisticated spiritual traditions while challenging modern assumptions about ancient religious practices. The modern revival attempts that seek to understand or recreate bloodletting traditions face ethical and practical challenges while raising questions about cultural appropriation and religious authenticity. These revival efforts demonstrate continued interest in indigenous spirituality, while highlighting the difficulties of reconstructing complex ceremonial traditions. The scholarly interpretation that attempts to understand bloodletting practices involves anthropological, archaeological, and historical research that seeks to explain religious motivations while avoiding judgmental attitudes toward cultural practices that differ dramatically from contemporary norms. The medical analysis that examines bloodletting procedures provides scientific understanding of physiological effects while explaining how extreme blood loss and pain could produce altered states of consciousness that participants interpreted as divine communication. This medical research helps explain the experiential foundations of religious beliefs while demonstrating the sophisticated understanding of human biology that enabled survival of extreme procedures. The psychological research that examines motivations for extreme ritual behavior provides insight into the mental processes that enable individuals to engage in deliberate self-torture while maintaining religious conviction and social functionality. This psychological analysis helps explain how cultural conditioning can override normal self-preservation instincts while creating alternative frameworks for understanding pain and suffering. The comparative studies that examine bloodletting practices across different cultures provide broader context for understanding Mayan ceremonies, while revealing universal aspects of human religious behavior that transcend specific cultural traditions. These comparative approaches demonstrate that extreme ritual practices occur in many societies, while taking different forms based on local beliefs and cultural conditions. Understanding Mayan royal bloodletting helps modern people appreciate both the sophisticated religious traditions that sustained complex civilizations and the human capacity for enduring extreme suffering in service of spiritual beliefs that provided meaning and purpose that transcended individual welfare. The legacy of Mayan bloodletting practices continues to influence contemporary indigenous communities while providing insights into the relationship between religious devotion and political authority that remain relevant for understanding how spiritual beliefs shape social organization and individual behavior. In the workshops of 10th century Scandinavia, where the boundary between craft and magic remained dangerously thin, you approach the sacred task of carving rune stones, knowing that a single misplaced chisel strike could not only ruin months of work, but potentially invoke supernatural forces that could destroy your family, your community, or your own soul. This isn't simply stone carving or artistic decoration, but the literal inscription of words that possess inherent power to bind fate, summon spirits, and alter the fundamental structure of reality itself. You might think of rune carving as an ancient form of writing or memorial craftsmanship, but Viking rune masters understood themselves to be practicing a form of magic that could influence the gods themselves while channeling forces that were as likely to destroy the carver as to accomplish the intended purpose. Every stroke of the chisel carried metaphysical weight that extended far beyond artistic or commemorative function to encompass life and death consequences for everyone connected to the stone. Welcome to the world of Viking rune magic, where skilled craftsmen risked their lives every time they picked up carving tools, where the act of writing was inseparable from spellcasting, and where the stones you carved would stand for centuries as monuments to either your mastery of supernatural forces or your catastrophic failure to control powers that no human should attempt to wield. The cosmological framework that governs rune carving establishes these symbols as fundamental forces that predate and transcend human creation, making rune masters intermediaries between mortal limitations and divine power that shapes the structure of reality itself through written manifestation of cosmic principles. The origin mythology that explains rune power describes Odin's self-sacrifice on Yggdrasil, where he hung for 9 days and nights pierced by his own spear to gain knowledge of the runes that control fate-time and the fundamental forces governing all existence. This mythological foundation makes rune carving a reenactment of divine sacrifice that channels Odin's own power while risking similar destruction. The Yggdrasil symbolism that underlies rune magic establishes the world tree as the cosmic framework where all 9 worlds intersect while providing the spiritual geography through which rune power flows between different levels of reality. Understanding this cosmological structure becomes essential for safe rune carving while providing the theoretical foundation for magical practice. The fate binding that runes enable involves direct manipulation of the Norn's weaving while creating permanent alterations to destiny that affect not just the intended subjects, but their descendants and associates across multiple generations. This fate manipulation makes rune carving enormously powerful, while creating responsibility for consequences that extend far beyond the carver's lifetime. The divine communication that rune carving facilitates enables direct contact with God's spirits and supernatural forces, while creating opportunities for receiving divine knowledge that transcends normal human understanding. This communication capacity makes skilled rune masters valuable, while exposing them to spiritual dangers that can prove fatal or worse. The magical alphabet that constitutes the runic system represents far more than phonetic symbols, with each individual rune carrying inherent spiritual power that influences reality through the act of carving while connecting written symbols to cosmic forces that govern specific aspects of existence. The protective wards that rune combinations create require precise understanding of symbol interactions while involving complex calculations about spiritual forces that can either provide powerful protection or trigger destructive consequences if improperly managed. These protective applications make rune carving essential for community safety while requiring expertise that takes decades to develop. The preparation rituals that precede rune carving involve extensive spiritual conditioning designed to align the carver's consciousness with supernatural forces while providing protection against the dangers inherent in manipulating cosmic power through written symbols. The purification ceremonies that prepare rune masters spiritually involve ritual bathing, fasting, and meditation designed to create appropriate mental states for handling divine power while eliminating spiritual contamination that could interfere with runic magic or endanger the carver during the inscription process. The tool consecration that makes carving implements suitable for magical work involves elaborate rituals that transform ordinary chisels and hammers into sacred instruments capable of channeling divine power while protecting the carver from supernatural forces that could prove destructive if contacted through unprepared tools. The stone selection that determines carving effectiveness requires identifying rock formations with appropriate spiritual properties while considering geological factors that affect both practical carving success and magical power transmission. The wrong stone can neutralize runic power or amplify it to dangerous levels. The timing calculations that determine when carving should occur involve complex astronomical observations and spiritual considerations that align earthly activity with cosmic forces while ensuring that runic power manifests at appropriate times and under favorable supernatural conditions. The spiritual protection that shields carvers from magical backlash involves personal wards and community rituals designed to contain supernatural forces while preventing the destruction that can result from mishandled divine power or inadequate preparation for magical practice. The workspace preparation that creates appropriate environment for rune carving involves establishing sacred space through ritual cleansing and spiritual barriers while arranging tools and materials in configurations that enhance magical effectiveness and provide protection against supernatural dangers. The carving techniques that safely inscribe runes involve not just stoneworking skills, but magical procedures that channel divine power through physical action while maintaining spiritual control over forces that can overwhelm unprepared practitioners and cause catastrophic consequences. The chisel control that enables precise rune formation requires years of training to develop the manual dexterity necessary for accurate symbol creation while learning to sense spiritual resistance that indicates potential magical problems during the carving process. Poor technique can ruin both artistic and magical aspects of rune stone creation. The depth calculations that determine carving effectiveness involve understanding how symbol depth affects magical power, while considering stone properties that influence both visual impact and spiritual transmission. Incorrect depth can weaken runic power or make it uncontrollably strong. The sequence protocols that govern rune arrangement require extensive knowledge about symbol interactions while following established patterns that ensure magical harmony rather than destructive conflict between different runic forces. Improper sequencing can neutralize intended effects or create opposite outcomes. The power modulation that controls magical intensity involves techniques for regulating spiritual force during carving while preventing magical overload that could destroy the stone, kill the carver, or create uncontrolled supernatural effects that affect entire communities. The error correction that addresses carving mistakes involves magical procedures for neutralizing flawed runes while preventing spiritual damage from incomplete or incorrectly formed symbols. These correction techniques require advanced expertise while carrying additional risks from modified magical intentions. The completion rituals that finalize runic power involve ceremonies that activate magical effects while establishing permanent spiritual connections between carved symbols and intended purposes. These activation procedures represent the most dangerous phase of rune carving while determining ultimate success or failure. The spiritual dangers that accompany rune carving include supernatural backlash from improperly controlled divine power possession by hostile spirits attracted to magical activity, and fate, binding that can destroy the carver's own destiny through mishandled cosmic manipulation. The divine wrath that can result from inappropriate rune use involves punishment from gods who consider runic power their exclusive domain, while protecting sacred knowledge from human misuse through direct intervention that can prove fatal or worse for presumptuous mortals. The spirit attraction that magical activity generates draws supernatural entities seeking to interfere with human magic, while creating opportunities for possession, influence, or destruction by beings that exist beyond normal physical limitations and moral constraints. The fate corruption that mishandled runes can cause involves permanent damage to destiny weaving, while creating cursed existence for carvers and their families across multiple generations. This spiritual pollution represents consequences worse than death, while demonstrating the ultimate risks of magical practice. The magical contamination that spreads from flawed rune work affects entire communities, while creating supernatural problems that can persist for centuries after the original carving mistakes occur. This contamination demonstrates how individual magical errors can have collective consequences. The supernatural surveillance that monitors rune carving involves divine oversight and spiritual observation that tracks human magical activity while creating accountability for runic practice that extends beyond earthly law to cosmic justice systems. The community protection that guards against magical dangers involves collective rituals and shared responsibility for monitoring rune carving, while providing support systems that help individual practitioners avoid spiritual destruction through community wisdom and intervention. The apprenticeship systems that train rune masters involve decades of instruction in both technical and magical aspects of stone carving, while creating master-student relationships that transmit dangerous knowledge under controlled conditions with appropriate spiritual protection. The knowledge transmission that preserves runic wisdom involves carefully guarded instruction that protects both teachers and students, while ensuring that dangerous magical knowledge remains available for community protection and spiritual advancement under appropriate circumstances. The testing procedures that evaluate apprentice readiness involve practical demonstrations and spiritual trials that confirm both technical competence and magical maturity before allowing independent practice of potentially destructive supernatural techniques. The error prevention that protects novice carvers involves supervision systems and safety protocols designed to minimize magical mistakes, while providing emergency intervention capabilities when apprentice work threatens to trigger dangerous supernatural consequences. The graduation ceremonies that authorize independent practice involve spiritual initiation and community recognition that establishes new masters while creating social accountability for continued safe and effective runic practice. The professional obligations that bind qualified rune masters include community service requirements and spiritual responsibilities that prioritize collective welfare over individual advancement, while maintaining the ethical standards necessary for safe magical practice. The social functions that runestones serve extend beyond magical purposes to include memorial commemoration, territorial marking, legal documentation, and cultural expression that make stone carving essential for community life, while integrating magical practice with practical social needs. The memorial functions that honor deceased community members involve permanent commemoration that maintains spiritual connection between living and dead, while providing focus for ongoing ancestor veneration that supports community spiritual health and cultural continuity. The territorial functions that establish land boundaries and ownership claims involve legal documentation that carries both practical and magical authority, while creating permanent records that supernatural forces recognize and enforce through runic power. The legal functions that record important agreements and social obligations involve binding documentation that creates enforceable contracts through magical as well as social mechanisms, while providing permanent evidence of community decisions and individual commitments. The historical functions that preserve community memory involve detailed recording of important events and cultural achievements, while creating permanent archives that maintain tribal identity and traditional knowledge across multiple generations. The artistic functions that demonstrate cultural sophistication involve aesthetic achievements that reflect community values, while providing opportunities for creative expression that enhances both individual reputation and collective cultural status. The religious functions that connect communities to divine power involve sacred inscriptions that maintain spiritual relationships, while providing focal points for religious observance and divine communication that supports community spiritual welfare. The economic implications of runestone carving involve significant resource allocation for materials, tools, and labor, while creating specialized craftsman positions that contribute to community economic diversity and provide valuable services that justify substantial investment. The material costs that stone carving requires include high-quality stone-specialized tools and precious materials for decoration, while involving transportation and preparation expenses that make rune stones significant community investments requiring careful financial planning. The labor investment that skilled carving demands involves extended time commitments from master craftsmen, while requiring community support for practitioners who cannot engage in other productive activities during major carving projects. The tool maintenance that enables continued carving work involves ongoing investment in specialized equipment, while requiring metallurgical knowledge and blacksmithing skills that create additional economic relationships and resource requirements. The trade relationships that supply carving materials involve commercial networks and exchange systems that connect communities, while creating economic dependencies and opportunities for advancement through successful stone carving projects. The artistic market that develops around exceptional runestones creates opportunities for economic advancement, while establishing reputation systems that reward superior craftsmanship through increased commissions and social recognition. The decline of rune carving traditions accompanies Christianization and cultural change, while reflecting broader transformations in religious belief, political organization, and technological development that alter the social foundations supporting magical practice and traditional craftsmanship. The Christian suppression that eliminated runic practice involved systematic destruction of pagan traditions, while replacing magical worldviews with religious frameworks that condemned rune carving as demonic rather than divine activity. The cultural transformation that reduced demand for runestones involved changes in commemorative practices, legal systems, and artistic preferences that made traditional carving less relevant, while creating alternative forms of cultural expression. The technological change that affected stone carving involved new tools and techniques that altered traditional methods, while reducing the mystical aspects of craftsmanship through rationalized production processes. The social mobility that reduced apprenticeship systems involved economic opportunities that drew potential practitioners toward other occupations, while weakening traditional knowledge transmission systems. The archaeological preservation that documents rune carving provides modern evidence of Viking magical practice, while enabling scholarly understanding of supernatural beliefs that were deliberately suppressed by historical authorities and cultural transformation. The modern interpretation that attempts to understand runic magic involves academic research and contemporary revival movements, while raising questions about cultural appropriation and the possibility of reconstructing authentic magical traditions from incomplete historical evidence. Understanding Viking rune carving helps modern people appreciate both the sophisticated integration of practical and magical thinking that characterized medieval worldviews and the human capacity for finding meaning through practices that involve significant personal risk in service of spiritual beliefs and community welfare. The legacy of runic traditions continues to influence contemporary spiritual practices while providing insights into the relationship between craftsmanship and magic that demonstrates how technical skill and supernatural belief can create powerful cultural institutions that serve multiple social functions simultaneously. Conclusion. From the bustling streets of Pompeii on its final morning to the sacred workshops where Viking rune masters risk their souls with every chisel strike, these 4 journeys through history reveal how extraordinary dangers often lurked beneath the surface of seemingly ordinary lives. The residents of Pompeii discovered that nature could destroy an entire civilization faster than human consciousness could process what was happening. Their story reminds us that normalcy is fragile, and that sophisticated urban life exists at the mercy of forces beyond human control. The Chinese court officials demonstrated how intellectual sophistication could coexist with systematic cruelty, where every conversation was a potential death sentence. Their experience reveals how political power corrupts human relationships while creating magnificent achievements through the exploitation of human fear and ambition. The Mayan kings showed how spiritual beliefs could motivate extraordinary suffering while creating sophisticated cultural achievements through religious devotion that prioritized cosmic harmony over individual welfare. Their sacrifices demonstrate faith's power to transcend physical limitations while raising questions about the relationship between devotion and self-destruction. The Viking rune carvers revealed how technical skill and magical thinking could combine to create powerful cultural institutions that served both practical and spiritual functions. Their dedication shows how humans have always sought to control forces beyond understanding through skilled work and spiritual courage. These stories share common themes: our capacity for creating meaning under extreme circumstances, our tendency to develop institutions that demand enormous sacrifice, and our vulnerability to forces we neither understand nor control despite our achievements. Their experiences challenge assumptions about progress and safety while revealing how much of what we consider normal represents unprecedented luxury. The expectation that we'll wake up tomorrow, that governments won't execute us for casual remarks, that religious practices won't require life-threatening self-mutilation, and that work won't expose us to supernatural dangers represents security most human societies would have found unimaginably comfortable. Yet these examples also reveal remarkable human resilience, showing how people found ways to create meaning, beauty, and community under impossible conditions. The Pompeians built sophisticated civilization on an active volcano. The Chinese created magnificent art within deadly political systems. The Maya developed extraordinary knowledge through systematic self-torture, and the Vikings created powerful institutions integrating craft with magic. Their achievements remind us that humans possess remarkable capacity for courage, creativity, and endurance when circumstances demand extraordinary performance, and that some of history's greatest accomplishments emerged from societies requiring members to navigate unimaginable dangers while maintaining psychological stability to create lasting works. As we face contemporary uncertainties, these historical examples remind us that human societies have always required members to navigate complex dangers while finding ways to create meaning despite circumstances that test endurance limits. Their examples provide perspective on our challenges while demonstrating both possibilities and limitations of human adaptation. The residents of Pompeii, the courtiers of Chang'an, the kings of Copan, and the rune masters of Scandinavia all lived in worlds where survival required skills we no longer possess, and courage we rarely demonstrate. Their experiences humble contemporary complaints while inspiring respect for human resilience and achievements possible when people commit fully to their circumstances' demands. These extraordinary ordinary people remind us that history is made by individuals who find ways to meet extraordinary demands while maintaining humanity, creating beauty, and building communities that outlast their circumstances. Their lives serve as testament to the resilience and creativity that have enabled human civilization to survive, despite dangers that would seem insurmountable to any individual facing them alone.